So, what if the most logical solution to a problem is almost always the wrong one? Today, we're going to dive into the absolutely brilliant and kind of counterintuitive world of marketing guru, Rory Sutherland. We're going to uncover why the best, most innovative ideas often don't make any sense. Well, at first anyway.
Sutherland kicks things off with this really provocative idea. He argues that businesses that are built on pure logic, like airlines, train companies, car manufacturers, they are missing a huge piece of the puzzle. They completely forget that they're not just moving things from point A to point B, they're managing the messy, irrational, and deeply emotional experience of being a human. And honestly, that changes everything.
Okay, so this really sets up the central conflict we're going to be looking at today. It's the world of pure logic, of engineering and spreadsheets, versus the world of human feeling, perception, and psychology.
Look, engineers, and it makes perfect sense, see the world through this lens of hard, quantifiable data. They're measuring things in seconds and meters and kilograms. But us, humans, we experience the world through a completely different and much, much more subjective lens. We don't really measure weight in minutes. We measure it in boredom or anxiety or just plain irritation.
Now, take a look at this number, 6 billion pounds. That is a staggering amount of money, and it was spent on a project with what seemed like a very, very logical goal. That's right, 6 billion pounds just to shave 40 minutes off the Eurostar journey. I mean, on paper, it makes perfect sense, right? Less time equals a better journey. The engineers totally solved the problem they were given.
But see, this is exactly where that pure, cold logic hits a wall. Sutherland makes us ask a brilliant question. Were they even solving the right problem? What if the objective length of the trip was never the real issue for the passengers in the first place?
And here's the thing. People were already choosing the longer train journey because the whole experience was just fundamentally better. No horrible airport security, no wasting an hour on either side of the flight. You just get on, sit down, and you have 3 hours of productive, maybe even relaxing time. For a tiny fraction of that 6 billion, they could have just put super fast Wi-Fi on every train and turned a good experience into an absolutely incredible one.
All right, so this brings us to the next big piece of the puzzle. It turns out, most of the time, we don't even know what we really want. And what we say we want, well, that's rarely the whole story.
It's funny, our motivations are often a total mystery, even to us. The part of our brain that does the feeling isn't really wired up to the part that does the talking. So, if you're looking for a breakthrough idea, just asking people direct questions is a surprisingly bad way to find it.
I mean, think about it. For years, Volkswagen just could not figure out why they had such a tiny market share in North America. The reason? German engineers saw their cars as these pure temples of engineering and refused to, desecrate them with something as trivial as cup holders. But for American drivers, that was a deal breaker. Nobody on earth said they wanted an $800 vacuum cleaner or a tiny, really weird-tasting energy drink. And yet, here we are. The things that really drive our decisions are often emotional and, frankly, seem kind of trivial.
So, if asking people directly what they want is a dead end, then what do? How do you innovate? Sutherland's answer is just genius. Stop trying to change reality. Instead, change the psychological context that surrounds it.
This is it. This is the art of creating immense value, not by changing a physical thing, but by changing how people feel about it. It's basically about finding a loophole in human psychology and using it to create something amazing. Seriously, the way these two companies created billions in value is just wow. Nespresso is a stroke of genius. If they sold their coffee in a big jar, it would seem outrageously expensive. But in a 40-cent pod, your brain doesn't compare it to cheap instant coffee. It compares it to the nearly $3 you'd spend at Starbucks. All of a sudden, it feels like the machine is practically saving you money. And Uber, their real innovation wasn't faster taxis, it was the map. The human brain hates uncertainty more than it hates waiting. That little map on your phone transformed the agonizing unknown wait for a cab into a predictable, manageable experience.
Okay, so how do we actually start thinking like this? Well, the first step is to learn a lesson from one of nature's most efficient problem solvers, the humble beehives.
So get this. Bees have this incredible system for finding nectar. It's called the waggle dance. It tells all the other bees exactly where to go to find the good stuff. But here's the crazy part. About 20% of the bees, they just completely ignore the dance. They just fly off in some random direction.
Now, in the short term, this seems wildly inefficient, right? I mean, why not have everybody follow the proven plan? But because the world changes. Old flower patches die out and new ones bloom somewhere else. Those random exploring bees, they're the hive's R&D department.
They are the key to long-term survival because they allow the hive to get lucky and discover new things. Over-optimizing on what you already know is a guaranteed path to, eventually, fail.
So this is what our exploring bees in the business world should really be looking for. To truly innovate, you have to look past the spreadsheet and focus on these deep, powerful human motivators that traditional metrics just completely miss. We crave status, like having your Uber show up the exact moment you step outside. We crave certainty, like that map showing your taxi is just 2 minutes away. These are the hidden levers that create real, tangible, psychological value.
And really, this is what it all comes down to. The greatest opportunities aren't found by just analyzing the world as it is today. They're found by imagining a different and psychologically smarter future. It's not about finding the one single right answer. It's about being brave enough to explore the irrational, the emotional, and the weird. So, the question I have for you is, what will you reframe?